3, 2, 1, and go. All right, guys, game 1 of the best of 3 Reborn versus Eventual Demise is now underway. Just gonna unmute my sound right there, and here we are to introduce Team Reborn. It's gonna be NATO Sick on Twin Blast, Jaleo Grande on his classic Sevarog, that Master Skin, Solo Nazgul mid lane on Bellica, Reflect in the off lane with some Kwong, and Master Splinter is going to be busting out the phase, which we don't see a lot of in this tournament.
And on the side of Eventual Demise, we have Ragnarok on the Feng Mao, Angelo Demorta on the Howitzer, In Oblivion on the Rampage, Atheid, JDB on the Revenant, and Holy Raven on that Muriel.
All right, and right off the bat, we do see the teams get very close to try and get some wards off. We have In Oblivion de-warding one of the blue wards over by the river buff and dropping his own. So he's going to be actually late to start his camps right now, having to sell that off, and he's going to opt for a Sage's Siphon, which I find fairly interesting, because when I'm playing Rampage, I prefer to go the Beastmasters.
A Beastmaster is usually the quicker clear. This gives you a little bit more health, so if you are looking for fights, you have that extra bit of survivability in the fight, especially in the early stages. Your clear is still going to be fairly okay because of the passive, the health regen. You're going to survive. You're not going to take much damage as a Rampage. It is a little slow. It's probably one of the slower clears out of all the jungles, and it looks like Oblivion missed a couple of hits on the camps there. It's going to slow him down. Might not hit that level 3 for the 3-minute mark at this rate.
And he's opting to go for the green buff, so him and Sevarog are actually pretty on par for their clear. Jaleo actually just finishing his green buff right now. Meanwhile, In Oblivion's just chipped through halfway of that green buff's health, giving Jaleo a bit of an advantage. In the mid lane, Solo Nazgul is already pushing down Angelo Demorte, knocking him up into the air and getting a void bomb down, adding some poke. Angelo Demorte now under half health. So we're already seeing that early game aggression from Reborn come out and starting to exert a little bit of dominance. Good rock being thrown out by In Oblivion, allowing Angelo Demorte to get the R2000 rocket to follow up on that one. Get a little bit of poke damage out.
Ragnarok's been already pushed out his lane. He's level 1. He's managed to grab a few little minions here, but he's already being pressured out of his lane. The freeze has been set up here by Reborn, which means that he's going to be struggling for resources, and it's going to make it a really rough time for him.
We do see Solo Nazgul actually rotating into the weak side jungle and placing a ward down to allow Jaleo to have a little bit of vision. We do have River spawning right now at the 3-minute mark. It's going to be red for Jaleo and purple for In Oblivion. And that's going to be very, very scary for anyone who has to face an invisible Rampage.
Yeah, he's going to be looking for a gank here, probably in the mid lane if possible. He's managed to sneak around here behind them, but he doesn't have his mid laner there to follow up, so it's wise of him to not go into it just yet. We do see this duo lane, also this duo combo rotating here against this carry support.
Oh my god, there's the tether being landed, followed by the knockup and the seismic assault. Jaleo's coming in now, and it's going to be Solo Nazgul with the auto attack to get first blood into the game. Map awareness not completely there for Eventual Demise, as the rotation was coming in fairly strong. There was even a ward there, but they did not even blink until they were in the lane.
They didn't even have time to really do anything. The Judgment of the Heavens from Reflect just allowed the setup from Solo Nazgul to get that pretty straightforward 2-man rotation from mid and jungle, which I love to see teams doing. You don't see a lot of teams do that sort of jungle mid combo. It's incredibly strong. You can do a lot of cool things, like invading the jungle as a duo, where you have a slight advantage and go for like the off lane there and try and get a kill. It's the best sort of roaming duo you can get, apart from maybe a support joining you.
Start the game off at the CS. The CS scores. We have Reborn at 70, and Eventual Demise tagging a little behind. Oh, there's Master Splinter going in with the Energy Lance, actually going to root down Ragnarok. It's going to be poked out by the Twin Blast and the grenades, down to under half health already. Ragnarok just got back in the lane. In Oblivion coming in to try and throw out the rock and add some pressure onto the map to help out his offlaner, but he's going to miss that one. And now he's just kind of hovering there, leaving his jungle open, and river buffs have just spawned. J Leo taking the left side. He's actually rotating around to Angela de Morte, who's hovering. There's the seismic assault, and that's going to follow up with the subjugate. Angelo de Morte using the landmine to knock himself back. He's trying to get away, but he's being zoned up by the team, and there's the really nasty siphon. The sound effect a little extra visceral on that one for me.
Well, he had the red buff, so that's extra ability power coming into play, allowing him to just get that nice clean finish with the siphon. Gets him a few extra stacks as well, and it's looking like it might be, again, a similar match to we saw yesterday from Eventual Demise. They're not able to really do much in the early stages of the game. They're consistently being under pressure here by Reborn in a similar manner to the way Oxygen were doing it. But Reborn, they're not the fastest team. They tend to slow pace control, tend to win sort of the mid game to the late game in most of their matches.
Yeah, definitely for Reborn, their weakest time in the game is their early game consistently, and we do see Nadosic picking up a kill on 2 in Oblivion, who is actually sitting in his offlaner's lane while the offlaner's in the mid lane because Howie was killed and had to back. J Leo now over there as we see the Reaping Dash of Ragnarok, so he tries to escape. Subjugate will land, and now it's going to be the Siphon. Landmine to peel off for Ragnarok, but Nadosic follows up. Energy Lance out of Master Splinter, and the grenade to finish the job. And now we have into the right lane. It's Athid, Reflect, and Holy Raven duking it out as Reflect is doing a fairly good job of keeping pressure onto the duo lane. He's actually starting to box out the Revenant. Using the Obliterate won't do a whole lot of damage against the Kwang.
He is just a little bit low mana, otherwise I would have suspected him to go in for the Fury of the Heavens with the Judgment start up. Doesn't have enough mana to do the full combo, because right now Holy Raven's actually quite low on mana from Nero. Probably got 1 shield there, and Reflect could potentially take out this duo if it weren't for the fact that his mana pool is just a little bit too low.
Especially with Kwang's ultimate costing a lot of mana. I think it's one of the more expensive ones in the game.
Yeah, the majority of his kit's pretty expensive, to be honest. He has to be incredibly cautious. Even the Fury of the Heavens, because the ultimate is a lot. The Judgment, I think, is one of the biggest sinks. So if you miss that, I think you'd blow about 100 mana, just completely gone instantly.
And that's on a fighter mana pool too. So Kwang is at this time only sitting at 380 mana, which is pretty high for a fighter, but when your abilities are costing 100 mana apiece, that goes away really quickly.
Yeah, it does. And right off the bat, we see the lead already favoring Reborn. The farm is 100 and... well, it's about 70 farm difference, and J Leo might be getting caught here as well.
No, J Leo was getting caught. He was on the green buff. He's going to use the Colossal Blow to knock back in Oblivion, actually pick up a kill onto the Howitzer just a second ago, and now it's still a Nazgul 1v3 in the enemy team using the minions to body block against Athid, who's going to drop out the Scar, and all he needs to get is the Oblivion off, and that will, the Obliterate off, and that will probably secure the kill. J Leo and Master Splinter rotating as well, as we see Master Splinter regaining the health bar of that Sevarog, like you mentioned earlier in the draft phase. Siphon to follow up, but it's Master Splinter securing the kill, and then Reflect coming in for round back, and it's going to be grabbing a kill onto the Rampage. Score now 7-0, and this is starting to really get out of hand for Eventual Demise.
Yeah, it's looking rough yet again. It's a little bit slower compared to the game yesterday, so they still have a chance to try get back in, but the farming difference, it's now reaching about a 90-point difference in farm. The points are already, if you're just looking at the carry differences, a 5-point difference between Nado and Athid, and the rest of the board is actually even further ahead. So J Leo's at 14, whereas in Oblivion's only at 8.
He hasn't even finished his first back yet, pretty much. Oh, man.
Yeah. What I love about Reborn is when they win those fights, they're taking control of that side of the jungle. So they'll clear a couple of those camps. They'll clear the link. They'll deny and starve those resources completely off the opposition. And it makes it really rough for them to get back in. They lose a lot of their resources, a lot of ways to get CXP, and then they're forced to make these desperate plays, which just goes further into Reborn's favor.
Yeah, and Reborn is the team that likes to capitalize off those desperate plays. Now that we're approaching the mid game for Reborn, this is where they shine. They have a weak early game, but it doesn't really matter because they're their shot calling and their team fighting is probably one of the best in the game. Hands down, one of the top teams. That's what makes Reborn, is they're able to come into the mid game, no matter the deficit, and just capitalize on small mistakes, turn things around, and prioritize the right targets.
Yeah, I agree completely, and they're probably just going to take these Raptors for free. I don't think they're going to have any contention here on the side of Eventual Demise. They do manage to get it, and that's just, again, increasing this early mid-game lead that they've been trying to build. They're probably going to wait around for the prime. I wouldn't be surprised if we see an early prime around the 15-minute mark. They have such a substantial lead right now that they can risk to tank it, especially if FaZe can keep J-Leo sort of topped up with health while they try and take it. And they can always back off and go for a fight as well if they want to. Yeah,
I think we are going to see a 50-minute prime. I do agree with you on that front. We do have River spawning right now. Black buff for Sevarog, purple buff on the other side, currently uncontested. No one's going to be grabbing that one at this time. Interestingly enough, we actually have that tower on the right-hand side finally being pushed down. That's going to be Rampage, Muriel, and Revenant to be going to pick that one up. J-Leo Grande completely in the enemy jungle right now. He's looking for a big pick, but they know he's there. There's a ward that he actually walked right by. He's looking to walk right up behind Ragnarok, holding the subjugate, waiting for that reaping dash to go out. Colossal blow will land. There's the subject to combo it off, and the siphon followed by the dash. So he's going to just completely use his entire combo, but secure the kill. Completely clean, executed extremely well. Ultimate coming out of Master Splinter. Nadosick going completely ham right now with the attack speed from the FaZe. Diving into the tower as the health regen to tank it, and he's gonna blow up the Revenant. Landmine will land, but Master Splinter is gonna use the tether to pull back the Twin Blast and help secure the kill with Solonazgul onto the Howitzer. In Oblivion now having the ultimate just to try and jump out as he's 1v4 against the enemy Reborn, who's now pushing down the inhibitor. Energy Lance goes out to root. Oblivion in place, falls with a Seismic Assault. Oh my god! All the abilities on Reborn being spent to completely chip away the health bar and blow up the Rampage right off the map.
12 minutes in, and the inhib is taking some damage. They do decide to back off, so we're not seeing an 11-minute inhibitor as we saw yesterday. Reborn electing to just go back, again, take this advantage that they've built themselves. 11, 0, 19 on the board. Nado, 25 points. Probably going to have 3 or 4 completed items on his back when he gets there. Getting all those fully upgraded bonuses right off the shelf. I'm loving Reflex build. You'll see this a lot more commonly in Quangs now. They get the Ethereum Mask. I love the card. It's a 4-point card that gives you so versatile, so many different options. Either 24 power, which is huge for 4 points, 16 armor or 12 ability armor, or that little bit of regen if you want to just sit in lane a little bit longer and cast a few more spells.
All right, starting off, that purple buff is still over there right now. We've actually rotated onto a whole new buff. And Master Splinter's gonna be picking that one up just to get it off the map because, you know, as we know, being able to go invisible on anyone is gonna be strong. You don't want to give that to the other team if you don't have to.
No, but again, Prime is up in about a minute and a half as well, so that's going to be where Reborn's going to look to get their big push, potentially even go for a game-winning push. They can tank it incredibly well, as I was mentioning. They have a FaZe who has a cast converter and a quenching scales. For those of you who don't know how cast converter works with FaZe, that regen that FaZe is getting from cast converter, that 47.5 for 10 seconds is going to FaZe and the linked person, so you can pretty much regen someone up to full health. It's a lovely little card that works well with phases. What makes it so strong, along with cards like Quenching and just the standard support cards as well.
I mean, even then, you see a lot of people, at least in solo queue, when they play phase, they take a more damage support oriented role. They'll put Tainted Magic onto their phase with Thick Blood, and the energy lamps being able to go through targets and having the cross map range is absolutely huge. Jungle being jungle, we're having a fight break out into the jungle. And that's going to be Rampage going down once again as Solonazgul is rotating around the Amber Link. Ragnarok has to use a Reaping Dash to get away, but Jay using the last bit of his mana to get a Subjugate off onto the Howitzer. Seismic Assault goes up as the team is pushing through the jungle into the inhibitor side of the map. Ragnarok and Reflect duking it out as Reflect using the light of the heavens to chunk down that Fang Mao. And with that, they have an advantage. Prime has spawned. They're going to go back into lane, and they're going to secure that tier 1 tower in the mid lane. And then we have Raptors up as well. Black Buff has spawned. Reflex going to go over and secure that one. That's going to give them a very large advantage. Oh, no, it's going to be Nadosig diving in, getting yet another kill onto Ragnarok. NATO now sitting at 4-0 as the Raptors are beginning to be taken. It's going to be Reflect picking up the first one. And I believe NATO should be getting the other two. Yes, he does. No, J. Leo gets one. So 1 for all and all for 1.
But again, they managed to secure another objective. It's getting to the 16-minute mark, and NATO's at 32 points. He is double the majority of Eventual Demise. This is going to be a perfect sort of setup for them to go for this prime. It is especially early on, so they can go and do it as well. So I don't know. It's up to the match is in complete control of Reborn right now. Whatever they want to do, they can do it. Eventual Demise haven't really been able to do anything. They're just checking this Raptor pit, but it's already been taken. And they have no resources to farm right now. None of their lanes are giving them enough to keep track. They're behind in minions, nearly 200 point difference. So
nice.
It's about 200 point difference. In
nice
minion
pull
farm
to bring Nadosig into lane. The landmine's going to peel away the howitzer as Nadosig looking to get yet another kill to spoon feed that Twin Blast. All right.
Yeah. It's looking rough. Like, I don't know. Eventual Demise, they managed to get to this top 32, but the caliber of play we're seeing here from Reborn is pretty much one of the cleanest matches we've been seeing all tournament.
Muriel going in to use Reversal Fortune to peel for the enemy team. And no one on Reborn is going to follow up on that one. So they're essentially burning down a Muriel just to precaution themselves from losing another team member. Reflect running into the green side jungle once again. He has the purple buff, and he's keeping an eye on that Revenant. I'm just waiting for that Judgment to be paired up. As soon as he gets far enough away from the enemy team, Reflect just hovering behind him. He's going to use the ultimate. There's the Fury of the Heavens, followed by the Light. Revenant has seen the light. Judgment goes down to finish the job, and it's going to Reflect.
Meanwhile, the inhibitor is being taken down here on the other side of the map by Reborn.
And that is going to be the inhib going down as the energy lance goes out. J. Leo swatting Holy Raven back away from the enemy team as Solo Nazgul and Nadosig completely clean up everyone. That's actually a triple kill for Nadosig. Core now being pushed down, and this should be the end of the game as we do have a full ace team wipe against Eventual Demise, who are going down 18-0. 18 minutes in the game. That's a kill for every minute. Gems. Hey, someone died!
Really, really clean game. Not as aggressive as we saw Oxygen yesterday, but an incredibly clean, precise game for Reborn. They knew exactly what they wanted. They just kept taking objective after objective, didn't overextend, didn't give Eventual Demise any chance to get back into this game. Raptors were consistently taken, and from there on in, they managed to use that point advantage they built to take this early inhibitor into a really early finish, pre-20 minutes.
All right, yeah, and that was definitely a very, very strong showing out of Reborn. That's what we expect from them. Is that methodical, slow, just dominance of their games. And that's what they like to do, too. Whereas we see teams like Oxygen yesterday, they come out full guns blazing at level 1. They do not hold back. They actually managed to finish the game in 11:45. And this is where you actually see the playstyle difference of the two teams, Gems, I think.
Yeah, you do.
Reborn definitely had the advantage in this game, but they still methodically made their game. They weren't aggressively just putting everything into it. Made sure they get their small leads to build up into the big leads, and once they had their big leads in the mid game, they made their plays.
Well, I love this. They weren't being too overly confident about it. They just took the fights where they could. They didn't over commit to anything. It was all incredibly calculated on the side of Reborn, and they didn't even die. They weren't going for sort of the over aggressive, overconfident plays you do when you're so far ahead. Because a lot of the times people fall into this trap where they're so far ahead, they just go for an incredibly aggressive play that ends up potentially losing them the match.
Yeah.
Because they just get caught, and then that snowballs into sort of Raptors or Prime, and then they lose a couple of towers. But they didn't do any of that. They just stuck to their game plan and just kept taking tower after tower, fight after fight. That was in their favor.
But that's one of those things where you're like, you're so far ahead and you feel so strong. You're like, I am on the top of the world. I can do anything. Then you die once. Like, oh, that's not that. I'm still the king. You die a second time. No, that was just like, nothing big deal. They just got lucky. That happens 2 more times. Suddenly you're not as big as you think you are, but you're still making those plays. And now you're, instead of being 8-0, you're 8-8.
Yeah, I agree completely. And again, that is our first game of the day. It is 1-0 up in the best of 3 for Reborn against Eventual Demise. We're going to find out if that is just the case in the next round as well.
All right, so we're going to go to break, get everything set up, and we'll have the next game of the best of 3, Eventual Demise versus Reborn, in just a second.